cyberbullying expert and the director of the National Children's and Youth Law Centre, Matthew Keeley, disagrees. He joins us now on Weekend Breakfast. Matthew Keeley, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Let's first clear this notion of filters and a commissioner. They're different.
Totally different. This in no way looks like Senator Conroy's filter. It was bad policy. I opposed it, our centre opposed it, and we would oppose it today. This is something totally different. It'll be used only very rarely in regards to particular Australian children who are being bullied, whereas a filter is about the entire internet, and it's about content that might be hosted abroad that might be either pornographic or in some other way deemed by someone offensive. That's not the issue here. This is a very targeted attempt to address cyberbullying of Australian kids, and that's it.
So can you explain how it will actually work and what sort of circumstances people will need to be in to actually engage the Commissioner?
Well, and it's a great question, because I think there's been a lot of uncertainty or lack of clarity about that. It will only work after a young person or their family or a teacher on their behalf has already gone to a large social network. So it's not the entire internet, it's only the very larger social media sites, have asked that site to take down material which is bullying of that particular child, and where that site has failed to do so. So it's in essence a second tier of review. And of course we have such things in the consumer rights space, fair trading commissioners and so forth, and it seems very odd that there's stringent opposition to this when it's just the same thing in the online space essentially.
Having a commissioner or a proposal for an e-commissioner, does that to you indicate the level of what is going on, I guess, in that space, that there is the need, in your view, for someone to be able to protect children in that space?
Absolutely. Numerous studies indicate the prevalence of cyberbullying to be very high in the Australian society. More work needs to be done there really to nail that down. They're quite varied, but it's quite significant. Our experience, we had 100 such cases last year, is that while we have to deal with the trauma, and we do that through our networks with people like 1800 Respect, Kids Helpline and Headspace and so forth, one of the things that will minimise trauma most quickly is by having the offending material pulled down. So this again isn't just any offensive material online, this is material targeting someone's child or someone's brother or sister, an Australian child, and this rapid takedown approach really is effective in minimising trauma for young people.
So much of trauma, sorry Richard, is about getting over something and healing. If that trauma is resurfacing and a child is constantly looking back on some material that is indicating that they've been bullied or saying something about them that might or might not be true, how does that restrict them from moving on and from healing and from getting over that experience?
In the most profound ways. The children who contact us, their parents, and in rarer cases teachers, are indicating children who are incredibly isolated. In some cases they've had to leave school and undertake homeschooling. Sometimes they're unable to re-enter their local school, which in a country environment can be really problematic. Unfortunately, the evidence would suggest that victims of bullying are kids who are already vulnerable in some way, shape or form, or at least there's a heightened experience of it for kids who are experiencing disadvantage. And we have seen cases where different bullies and different pages have been created targeting the one child at different points in time. In other words, trauma taking place over the space of, say, 3 months, for example. It's terrifying.
What sort of things are we talking about here? And because with social media, there seems to be a lot of bullying going on, and also offensive language and different things like this. But some of this stuff that you're talking about is very targeted to individual people.
It's all we're talking about. Bullying, in this instance, requires repeated behaviour, and the bullying that would reach the threshold for the Commissioner's interest is already bullying that meets the threshold for criminality. It's serious stuff, and the offence that most regularly would apply in this instance has and it is one of the lesser offences, has an imprisonment, a maximum imprisonment of 3 years. And after that, it just gets more serious, and the length is greater. So it's very serious business, but it is only targeted to particular children, and it's bullying that's already criminal in essence.
Will the E-Safety Commissioner actually recommend criminal charges? Is that something that the position would do?
No. It is open to the E-Safety Commissioner to report on to the police, but it isn't like a coroner in that way doing, sifting through all the evidence and making recommendations. In essence, it is that second tier of review. A young person, their parents or a teacher on their behalf would be required to use the social media site's own reporting and takedown mechanisms, and where there's a failure, then has this second tier of review.
Matthew Keeley, fascinating topic, and thank you so much for coming in to enlighten us on that this morning. It's been a big discussion for us this morning, so thank you.
Well, lovely. Thank you for having me.